I just had a question on an analogy that you give sometimes in response to people who ask about why would God send someone to hell.
Right.
So people who watch you may be familiar with it, but the analogy essentially of a man pursuing a woman, and ultimately if she doesn't want to be pursued, if he loves her, he'll let her go.
Yeah.
God does the same thing. If we don't want a relationship with him, he'll let us go. How would you respond to somebody who says the analogy is essentially flawed? It's more of a parent-child relationship because God knows what's best for us. Why is he punishing us when he knows what we don't know? If that makes sense, that he knows that being with him is better. And so a parent to a child, I'm going to do what's better for them, even though they may not want it. So how would you respond to somebody that wants to break
When I
down
was a
the
young
analogy?
boy, my parents would take me bowling, and it was a great family activity that we did together that I cherish. I still remember my dad has like the most unique signature bowling. You know, it's like the sidearm pitcher. You see my dad throw a strike down a bowling lane, and you'll know exactly what I mean. But the point of this share is that one of the nights that we went bowling, I had I love air. You know, like I have this thing where I couldn't, just stay asleep, let alone fall asleep, if I didn't have like a fan circulating air blowing on me. And then like with background noise, like the minute my parents would come in and see me there sleeping with like the TV on, and then they just like turn it off, and I just wake up like, what? Like again, my father knows what I'm talking about. But there were times when they'd always tell me like it's wasting energy, which is what they told me when they come into my room. TV was off, then I had the fan. That's my, my metronome to get me just to meditate on something and just be able to just doze off. So essentially, that's how I look at it. But there was a weird thing that my mother told me that, this was like the next phase where it's like, I get it, it's wasting power, but I'm not, I was bargaining. But then her explanation to me was that back in Korea, a bunch of kids were dying in their sleep, and they say that it was because these children were sleeping with a ceiling fan on, which took away the oxygen and essentially they just suffocated. I was just like, none of that scientifically makes sense. Like, it's circulating air. No, I'm not. But the point is, I'd always get yelled at. Just like, if we tell you to do something, do it. If we tell you not to do something, don't do it. Right? So, back to when I was a boy at the bowling alley, and I had just found like all the fans, that fan to dry your hand before you stick your sweaty hand in like the finger holes. I was like, ooh, and I was just like so in awe with the ball return. Just like I'd wait, I'd see my dad throw the ball, and then I'd see it drop, and then I'd just like counting like, and then it just like come up. It was just fascinating to me. And I just sit there and look at it, and my parents were bowling, it was with their friends. It was like the adult thing that parents did at that time, back in like the late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, they just weren't paying attention to me, like sticking my hand like in the ball return, because I was like, ooh, there's air coming out of this thing. You know? And then I just remember the ball, you know, like my hand was this hand right here. The scar is barely visible now, which is, I guess, a sign for something. But I just had my hand like this in the ball return. The ball came up, rolled over my hand, which essentially just sandwiched my little elementary school hand against the belt, which ended up just giving me, you know, like a burn. It was just a little scar. But you can imagine just probably being in that bowling alley, just hearing this little engine blowing. And then, you know, like it's probably a scene, is all I'm saying. And the lesson that came from that began from that, that's not my fault, you know? Like, my dad told me, there's a sticker right here. Do you know what this sticker says? And I was like, no. It says, if you could read, you know, like an adult, you would know that this sticker says, don't do that. So, just, that's why you gotta be smart in school. my parents were always good about just tying it back to, that's why you gotta study hard and learn how to read these warning labels and such. But again, this was what spawned this ongoing teaching that my father always used, that I wasn't able to fully grasp and appreciate the magnitude of the wisdom that was just behind the simplicity of just asking me as a child, Charles, if you saw a cup on fire, would you touch it? And I told him, no. And he asked me, why? And I told him, because fire makes stuff hot, and I know fire and hot stuff will burn me. And you told me, Father, that that's what a burn is when I stuck my hand in the ball return. And I don't want to get burned, so I would not touch that cup. And he looked at me and said, good, then you've learned the lesson. But, son, there are kids in your school who never stuck their hand in that ball return. And he realized that that was in American culture because parents just told them, like, don't do that. I feel like Western and Eastern child raising is just literally yin and yang. It's, if I think in Eastern culture you see the child, you know, about to stick something in a socket, you're more likely to just let them do it and learn the lesson the hard way. They gotta know what it feels like to get electrocuted, to get a sense of any kind of lesson, right? And then in Western culture, it's just like, don't do that! You know, just, you've got a fork and you're just even like, it's like driving. Like, look out for that tree! You mean that tree, like, it blocks down that way? It's literally like that. But it's just the different kind of nature versus nurture process. But again, back to the burning cup. He told me that these children have parents who told them, fire, if you touch fire, if you play with fire, you get burned. And they know not to play with fire. Those are good kids. And then there are kids who play with fire, get burned, feel how painful it is to get burned, and then they say, I don't want to play with fire or touch fire again. Those are good kids, just like you. So I was just like, okay, can I have my soda? Now, fast forward into the dark ages of my history, let's just call it, to which I just needed to smoke pot to drive out all the battles out, you know, just constantly, like the devil and the angel. Just everything I was doing, could I just shut you both up and just like relax? And that's what I would just I guess describe like that first moment that I smoked kind bud, and I just was like, what? This is completely different from the stuff I was given by my friend, not my parents or anything like that. But it was just a calming, like salvation, just peace. For the first time in my young life, my senior year of high school was when I just started smoking pot and just experimenting with all sorts of other things. And at this time, when my parents like found out and then entrusted me, and then I found out it was with smoking. You know, my dad was a smoker, and I remember when he caught me smoking cigarettes, and this is when the lesson came back. He caught me the first time and told me not to do it. He said, smoking's bad. Don't be like me. I can't quit. And it's just going to end up killing me. Blah, blah, blah. You don't want to do that, right? But then they caught me 2 weeks later. You know. And then my father made me sign a contract saying, if I get caught smoking again, I give my parents consent to cane me 9 times. And if you don't know what caning is, this was back in 1990s, where an American man named Michael Fay went to Singapore and was arrested for vandalizing, spray painting graffiti. And Singapore is one of the cleanest, and still is the cleanest cities. People don't spit, there's no garbage on the ground. And again, this American goes to this other country, commits this crime under the assumption that he has amnesty and that he won't be punished as a Singapore citizen would be. To which this was a huge lesson in my generation's time period, where it was just like, wow, that's a crazy kind of capital punishment. To hear that that in Singapore, it's not like you go to jail. It's just, no, you go into the town square, you drop your pants, and somebody whose job it is given a stick designed to, hurt, yet not, like just like the whipping of. It was a very. It was like, just a spanking on, like you get a switch. It's like that, only to an actual. This is how that country hashes out punishment. And then if you don't learn from that, then I'm sure they throw you into some kind of internment re-education camp to get you to think straight or self-correct yourself. Now with self-correction, when I got caught that third time and I signed that thing, and he just told me, son, you signed a contract. And he told me the 3 tips that every man must know and watch out for. It's the tip of his tongue, the tip of his pen, and the tip of his gochus, oh my God. Which, this was a lesson I said I wasn't going to do something. I got caught. I said I wouldn't do it again. Signed my name in pen. And now I'm facing my next crime against my word. And so my father told me, it's the third time, go to the garage and get me something to cane me with. Just like, oh my gosh. And I remember just, like this middle school kid going to the garage, and I see a baseball bat, a golf club, and a hockey stick. And I was like, where is my wiffle ball bat? And I grabbed the hockey stick. I thought that would have more resistance and received my caning. I think I ended up passing out after 2. But this was a moment that really created an inflection point. In which my father told me, son, there are 2 types of people. The ones who know not to touch the can without being told. The ones who touch the can on fire, get burned, and then don't touch it. Then there are people like you who are told, touched it, get burned, and just keep touching it, getting burned. Why? And it took me well into my comedy years that I said, perhaps I'm trying to create an oven.
Hey, Charles Payne, thank you. You're a lot smarter on the economy than I am. Take a look.
Greetings to all of you in the language of love, the universal language. Beauty is the splendor of truth. Use your hearts for what your hearts are for. Fill them with light. Do not fill them with darkness. The light of the human heart, when it's given faith, if it were opened up, it would blind the world. May this message give us eyes with which to see, ears with which to hear, and hearts with which to love each other, to love the world, and to do good.
Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Charles Payne and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else. Okay, that's a high standard to compare it to.
First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.